Have you noticed that something feels off lately? The places you used to visit without a second thought, your favorite cafe, the grocery store, the family gathering, now leave you feeling like you've been emotionally ambushed. The lights feel brighter, the sounds sharper. People's conversations don't just echo around you, they pierce through you. And for reasons you can't logically explain, your body starts reacting in ways that make you question your sanity. Your heart pounds even when you're not anxious. Your breath shortens, not from fear but from an invisible pressure that builds in your chest. You start feeling dizzy, irritable, overstimulated, and deeply, deeply out of place. And here's the truth. You're not imagining it. You're not too sensitive. You're not being dramatic. You're shifting. And the world you once walked through without friction is no longer calibrated to your frequency. You're not broken. You're awakening. Something in you has changed. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in subtle, energetic increments. At first it might have felt like an occasional discomfort in crowds, or a sudden desire to leave a room without knowing why. But over time that inner nudge became louder. Your tolerance shrank. What used to feel normal now feels unbearable. And what once passed unnoticed now registers like a scream in your nervous system. That's not dysfunction, that's discernment. You've started hearing life at a different decibel. You used to be able to walk into any room and blend in. Your system adapted to the background noise of other people's energy. You absorbed tension without knowing it. You smiled through discomfort because it was culturally expected. But now it's like your body has rebelled. What you used to tolerate now triggers an internal alarm. That's because you're no longer functioning from the same energetic baseline. You've outgrown the vibration of your previous self, and with that evolution comes a new sensitivity, a language your body has learned to speak fluently, a language that no one taught you with words, but one your spirit has always known. It's not a weakness to feel so much. It's a signal that you're finally tuned in to what's always been there, just outside of conscious awareness. You're not antisocial, you're energetically aware. In the past, you may have brushed off strange sensations, a headache at the mall, a tightness in your throat after a group event, feeling fine before entering a room only to feel exhausted minutes later. But now the symptoms are too consistent, too aligned, too loud to ignore. These are not random occurrences. They are energetic reactions, clear evidence that your nervous system is receiving information it once blocked out. Imagine your body like a radio. Most people are tuned to the static, surviving but not receiving. You, however, have been shifted into a different station. And with that comes a new clarity, a new input stream that doesn't just inform you, it transforms you. You walk into a room and feel everything, not in your head but in your gut, in your breath, in your bones. You begin to notice how people's emotions land on your skin before their words reach your ears. And because of this, spaces that once felt safe now feel invasive. The chaos of crowded environments isn't just inconvenient, it's painful. The buzzing conversations, the unspoken tension, the buried resentment, the performance of politeness, you sense it all now. You don't need to hear it to know it. You don't need to see it to feel it. And your body, your sacred, intuitive, hyper-attuned vessel, is sounding an alarm that you can't unhear. You're not meant to override that alarm. You're meant to listen. The world will try to convince you that something is wrong with you for needing more space, for not enjoying the same gatherings you once did, for feeling overstimulated where others feel excited. But the truth is, you're not rejecting people, you're responding to frequency. And when you're tuned to a higher frequency, what used to feel normal now feels misaligned. That's not ego, that's evolution. The deeper you go on your path, healing, clearing, releasing, the more your energetic field upgrades. You stop resonating with drama, small talk, or the masks people wear to survive. You stop harmonizing with the collective noise. And that change doesn't just impact your mind. It shows up in your nervous system. You shake, you sigh, you feel hot, agitated, restless, or disoriented for no logical reason. These aren't psychological malfunctions. They're energetic translations. Your nervous system is speaking to you in a new dialect, and the message is crystal clear. This isn't where you belong anymore. The language of your body is sacred. It doesn't speak in paragraphs or philosophies. It speaks in impulses, sensations, and reactions. That tightness in your chest, that sudden urge to flee, that overwhelming sense of heaviness when someone walks by. It's all communication. The key is not to suppress it, but to decode it. What you're feeling isn't just anxiety, it's energetic incompatibility. Crowds amplify this. The denser the space, the more emotional residue there is in the air. Thoughts, feelings, projections, they all leave a frequency trail, and in a crowded place those trails collide. It's like trying to breathe in a room full of smoke. Even if no one else sees it, your system feels it. That's why you feel like you're suffocating even when you're perfectly healthy. Why your skin tingles, why your eyes dart, scanning for a door. Your body isn't just reacting, it's translating the invisible energy around you into physical signals. And now that you're tuned in, you can't tune back out. This shift can feel disorienting. You might grieve the parts of yourself that used to enjoy the company of many. You might feel confused when your old routines no longer feel right. But that's not regression, it's recognition. You're not who you were before, and that means the world you built before may no longer be the one that fits. Let that be okay. Let it be okay to leave early, to crave silence, to choose nature over noise. Let it be okay to protect your space like it's holy, because it is. You are no longer vibrating at the level of mere survival. You're learning to live in alignment, and that means honoring your internal yes and your sacred no, even when others don't understand it. You don't need to explain your sensitivity, and you need to trust it. The shift you're experiencing isn't temporary. It's not a phase. It's a spiritual promotion. And while the world may not be calibrated to your frequency yet, that doesn't mean you should lower yours to match. You didn't come here to blend in, you came here to awaken, to feel, to witness, to carry a frequency so high it shakes the old structures just by entering the room. So if your body says this space isn't safe, believe it. If your breath catches, if your skin buzzes, if your soul whispers not here, listen. Your frequency is your compass now, and it will never lead you wrong. There was a time when you could walk into a room and disappear into it. You blended, you adapted, you adjusted your tone, your posture, even your energy to match the atmosphere around you. Maybe you didn't realize you were doing it. Most people don't. It was a kind of survival, a way to belong, a way to stay safe. You learned to read the room and shrink or stretch just enough to fit inside the emotional container it provided. But something has changed. Now when you enter the same spaces, you no longer melt into the background. You feel like a tuning fork struck in a room of silence. There's a vibration you bring with you, one that others can't quite place, but they feel it. Conversations shift. Eyes linger. People become either magnetized or uncomfortable. You didn't ask for attention, but somehow it finds you. And it's not because you're louder or flashier. It's because your energy refuses to blend anymore. It refuses to conform to chaos. You used to tolerate things, now you transmute them. There's a frequency rising within you that won't let you dilute yourself just to make others comfortable, not anymore. And that alone is enough to disturb every room that thrives on unconscious patterns. You're no longer mirroring the energy of the environment, you're disrupting it. And not in a loud, confrontational way, it's subtler than that. It's in the way your silence cuts through the noise, the way your presence unmasks what's unspoken, the way your eyes see beyond the performance. You've become a mirror without trying to be, and that makes people nervous. People who live in denial can't hold eye contact with someone who sees truth. People who numb themselves with routine don't know how to breathe around someone who vibrates with presence. You used to lower your frequency to match theirs. Laugh at jokes you didn't find funny. Nod at words you didn't believe. Smile when your spirit was silent. You don't do that anymore. And whether consciously or not, others sense the shift. You've stopped matching the room, now you shift it, and let's be honest, that can feel lonely at times. It can feel like you're walking through life as a frequency foreigner, speaking a language that only trees and stars understand. You go to the same places, but they no longer feel like home. You're surrounded by the same people, but the connection feels hollow. It's not that they've changed, it's that you have. And that change has made it impossible for you to go back to the old way of being. You can't unseen what you've seen. You can't unfeel what you've felt. And because of that, your system, your mind, your heart, your energy, is done playing small. It won't let you suppress your truth to maintain the illusion of harmony. It won't let you sacrifice authenticity for acceptance. You've entered a new phase now, one where invisibility is no longer an option. Not because you want to stand out, but because your frequency is too high to hide. You shine without trying, and that light shakes things loose. Have you noticed how certain people start to fidget when you're around? How old friends become quieter or suddenly more defensive. How social situations feel tense without a clear reason. That's not your imagination. That's the resonance of your presence revealing what was once hidden. You don't have to speak. You don't have to confront. You just have to be, and the vibration you carry will start stirring what's buried in others. You've become a catalyst, not a chameleon. And it's important to understand what that means. It means you're no longer here to adapt to dysfunctional dynamics. You're here to unravel them, gently, powerfully, simply by existing in your truth. And yes, that may make others uncomfortable, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something different. You're radiating a kind of coherence that highlights everything around you that is incoherent, and energy never lies. This is why blending in feels impossible now. Your nervous system won't let you fake it anymore. You try to pretend like everything's fine, but your body reacts. Tight chest, spinning head, goosebumps, pressure, restlessness. That's not anxiety. That's alignment refusing to be abandoned. That's your system saying, we don't do that anymore. And every time you ignore it, the consequences become louder. Fatigue, mood swings, emotional hangovers. Your body has become your truth teller now, and it won't let you stay where you don't belong. You were never meant to stay small, just to keep others comfortable. The truth is, you weren't created to blend in. You were created to awaken others, even if that awakening happens in silence. Even if it happens through a glance, a presence, a pause. Even if it happens through your refusal to engage in the usual energy exchange of drama, projection, or performance. Your very existence at this new frequency is medicine, and medicine doesn't always taste sweet. Sometimes it stings. Sometimes it shakes the system. Sometimes it triggers resistance before it creates healing. Don't mistake the discomfort you create in others as a sign you're doing something wrong. In fact, it's often the opposite. Your energy brings light to shadows. That's not always welcome. Some people will see you as intense. Others will feel threatened by your clarity. You might get labeled as distant, arrogant, or too deep. But those labels say more about their bandwidth than your essence. They are filtering your frequency through the lens of their unprocessed fears. Let them. You're not here to manage everyone's projections. You're here to embody your truth fully and unapologetically. And the more you do, the less you will resonate with people, places, and patterns that once felt familiar. This is not rejection. It's realignment. It's the universe editing your external world to match your internal upgrade. Some connections will fall away. Some opportunities will shift. Some doors will close. Let them. Every departure creates space for higher resonance. You don't need to shrink to fit into old frameworks. You need to expand and let those frameworks crumble around you. Because the more you try to go back, the more resistance you'll feel. You're not designed to live in energetic camouflage anymore. You're designed to radiate. That's why staying quiet feels heavy now. That's why pretending feels violent. That's why being around certain people feels like betrayal. To your soul, to your truth, to your path. So stop apologizing for the shift. Stop questioning the signs. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to be remembered by those who are ready to rise with you, match your frequency, and co-create a world that doesn't just tolerate high vibration, but thrives in it. And you're already doing it. One room at a time, one interaction at a time, one brave, unapologetic breath at a time. This isn't the end of belonging. It's the beginning of true resonance. You walk into a room and something shifts. It happens before your mind even has time to process it. An almost imperceptible drop in your energy, a tightening around your chest, a subtle clenching in your gut. Maybe it's a restaurant, a shopping center, or a family event. No one's saying anything cruel. No one's yelling or fighting. But still, something feels off. Something invisible yet undeniable starts to press against your field. You feel heavy, you feel cloudy, you feel strange. And the worst part? You can't explain it. That's because what you're sensing isn't visible, it's vibrational, it's the static of other people's emotions. The truth is, most people are carrying around emotional residue they've never processed. Suppressed anger, repressed grief, silent anxiety, guilt, jealousy, exhaustion. They wear smiles on their faces, they laugh and joke and make small talk, but underneath there's tension. Raw, unspoken, unresolved tension. And whether they're aware of it or not, they're leaking that emotional energy into the room like smoke through a cracked door. You feel it, all of it. You don't just hear their words, you absorb the energy behind them. You pick up on the way someone's smile doesn't match their eyes. You notice the pause in someone's tone that reveals hidden resentment. You feel the frustration in someone's silence, even when they insist they're fine. You see the exhaustion in someone's posture before they've even said a word. And the more you awaken, the more sensitive you become to this energetic noise. Crowded places are filled with this kind of static. Layers upon layers of emotional frequency bouncing off walls, ricocheting off people and swirling in the air like invisible smog. It's not just the number of people that overwhelms you, it's the accumulation of unspoken energy. Each person carries an energetic signature, and when dozens or hundreds of them gather in one place, the result is an emotional fog dense enough to drown it. Most people are numb to it, but you're not. You've become an energetic receiver, not by choice, but by evolution. What others can ignore, your system now registers. What others dismiss, you feel. And that feeling doesn't just stay out there, it enters your field, your body, your breath. It's why you can walk into a space feeling fine and leave feeling depleted, irritable, or strangely sad. It's why you sometimes feel emotions that don't even belong to you. Because when your frequency rises, you don't just develop empathy, you start to experience energetic fusion. And that's a whole different world. Empathy is understanding someone's pain. Fusion is absorbing it. You didn't sign up for that. You didn't volunteer to become a human sponge. But your system is so finely attuned now that unless you consciously shield yourself, you'll start pulling in fragments of everyone around you. Moods, emotions, thought patterns, even physical sensations. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you dramatic. It makes you energetically awake. And there's a price to that awakening. Where connection once felt nourishing, it now feels like labor. Where socializing once recharged you, it now drains you. You used to enjoy being around people because it was light, fun, easy. But now every interaction requires energetic navigation. Every space demands emotional filtration. Every conversation becomes an invisible negotiation between your boundaries and their unconsciousness. It's exhausting not because you dislike people, but because you feel them too deeply. Their stress lives in your shoulders. Their sadness tugs on your chest. Their anxiety flickers through your breath. Their unspoken rage simmers beneath your skin. And the more unaware they are of their own emotional state, the more you feel the weight of it in your body. You may even find yourself trying to fix it without realizing it, shifting your tone to soothe someone's unspoken tension, carrying the conversation to lift a heavy mood, staying longer than you want to so that someone else doesn't feel abandoned. It's subtle, but it's there. This invisible emotional labor that your soul keeps performing because your heart is so open, so aware, so willing to ease others' discomfort. But that willingness has a cost. Because every time you absorb energy that isn't yours, you lose a little piece of your own. Every time you compromise your peace to stabilize someone else, you trade clarity for confusion. Every time you hold space for energy that someone refuses to claim, your light dims just slightly. And while you've been taught to see that as compassion, there's a deeper truth here. True compassion does not require you to carry what isn't yours. You were not designed to be an emotional landfill. You are not meant to process other people's pain for them. You are not here to be the filtration system for everyone else's unresolved energy. You are here to feel, yes, but not to fuse. And this is the lesson your soul is starting to remember. There is a sacred difference between being open and being unprotected, between being compassionate and being energetically porous, between loving people and carrying them. You're waking up to that difference now. And with that awakening comes a shift in how you relate to crowds, conversations, environments, and even loved ones. You start craving less stimulation. You start pulling back from surface-level connection. You start choosing solitude not out of avoidance but out of necessity, not because you're antisocial but because your energy field needs room to breathe. You stop feeling guilty for not answering every call. You stop apologizing for leaving early. You stop forcing yourself to smile when your spirit says no. Because you know now, being around people isn't neutral anymore. It's work. Sacred work. And you can no longer offer your presence indiscriminately, as if your energy is a public resource. It's not. It's a divine offering, one that must be protected, respected, and reserve for what truly aligns. So if being around others feels heavy, honor that. If small talk makes you want to disappear, trust that. If gatherings leave you tired instead of inspired, listen to that. Your system is speaking to you in the only language it knows: sensation. It's telling you when something's off. It's telling you when you're absorbing too much. It's telling you when you're fusing instead of feeling. You don't have to prove your kindness by becoming a martyr. You don't have to prove your love by sacrificing your light. You don't have to carry anyone's shadow to validate your sensitivity. You are not here to be weighed down. You are here to rise, and rising requires you to recognize when something isn't yours to hold. This isn't disconnection. This is discernment. This isn't rejection. This is self-preservation. This isn't selfishness. This is sacredness. Because the more you rise, the more your field becomes a mirror. And mirrors aren't supposed to carry reflections. They're meant to show them. Let your presence reflect, not absorb. Let your heart witness, not fuse. Let your soul observe, not merge. There is strength in staying open, but there is power in staying sovereign. And the more you honor that, the lighter you'll feel. There's a moment, right before someone speaks, where you already know what they're about to say. Not the words, not the sentence, but the emotional temperature beneath it. It lands in your body before their voice reaches your ears. A tightness in your throat, a subtle sinking in your belly, a flutter across your chest. It happens so fast that you could miss it, but you don't. Not anymore. Because your sensitivity has sharpened and your entire system is operating like an antenna now. You're not just perceiving the world. You're translating it. You are becoming a human tuning fork. It's not a metaphor, it's an energetic fact. Your field, your nervous system, your consciousness, they've all been recalibrated to detect the smallest fluctuations in emotional frequency. You sense the shift in someone's breath. You feel the difference between tension and hesitation. You can tell when someone is performing politeness versus actually being present. You see behind the veil even when you don't want to. And it's not because you're looking too hard, it's because your field is listening. And it hears everything. This new level of awareness doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It simply is. It has come online fully now, and what others chalk up to vibes, you're experiencing as a full-spectrum energetic report. You don't need confirmation. You don't need a confession. You already know. This isn't paranoia. This isn't overthinking. This is precision. You're not on edge. You're attuned. Imagine a stethoscope pressed against the beating heart of a crowded room. That's you now. Every posture, every twitch, every shift in tone is data. You pick it up like sonar. Not because you want to, but because your body doesn't know how to not listen anymore. You walk into a space and within seconds your energy has already mapped it out. Who's pretending? Who's suppressing? Who's radiating? You don't even try to do it, it just happens. You might feel overwhelmed by it, confused, even burdened by the constant influx of information. But that's only because you were never taught how to interpret what you're receiving. The world doesn't train us to navigate this level of sensitivity. It tells us to ignore it, to tone it down, to desensitize. But you can't undo this awakening. And the truth is, what you're feeling is not the problem. It's the signal. Heightened sensitivity isn't a flaw, it's feedback. It means your system is responding exactly as it should to a world that is emotionally dissonant. You're not overreacting. You're responding with clarity to what others haven't even noticed. You're registering frequencies that were once invisible to you, frequencies of fear, suppression, inauthenticity. And the more you raise your own vibration, the more that contrast becomes impossible to ignore. You're not just feeling energy anymore, you're decoding it. Someone says, "I'm fine," but your body tightens. You nod out of politeness, but inside, you know they're lying to themselves. Their smile doesn't reach their eyes. Their voice skips a beat on the word, fine. Their energy flickers just long enough for you to catch the static behind their calm. And while the rest of the room continues unaware, your system is already holding the weight of what wasn't said. That's not anxiety. That's accuracy. You've become an intuitive receiver of what's unspoken. Micro-expressions that pass unnoticed by others feel like energetic thunderclaps to you now. A momentary frown, a tight jaw, a blink that lasts too long. It all registers. You read more from someone's pause than from their speech. You detect stories in silence. And, as your perception deepens, you begin to realize just how much of the world operates on unspoken energy. Words are slow, frequency is instant. You don't need an explanation anymore, you feel the truth. But here's the part no one tells you. Being a tuning fork doesn't mean you have to take responsibility for every frequency you pick up. You're not required to fix, to heal, to carry. You are simply meant to know. Awareness is your gift. Presence is your power, but ownership, that's a choice. And the more you learn to discern what's yours and what isn't, the more liberated you become. It's tempting to internalize the static, to assume that because you feel it, it must belong to you, but that's the trap of fusion. You are not the static. You are the instrument, registering it. And with practice you can learn to observe without absorbing, to sense without drowning, to stay open without bleeding. This level of awareness can feel isolating at times. You walk through the world with a depth others don't always understand. You catch the undercurrents while others ride the surface. It can make you feel like you're living in a different dimension. In many ways, you are. You're operating at a bandwidth that most people haven't accessed yet. And because of that, you often find yourself navigating spaces with a kind of invisible responsibility, holding your field steady while others unconsciously discharge theirs. That's not fair. And it's not sustainable. You're not a dumping ground for misaligned energy. You're not a receptacle for emotional debris. You are a finely tuned instrument of perception, and your calibration matters. This is why boundaries become sacred. Not just physical boundaries, but energetic ones. Who you give your time to, what environments you walk into, the kinds of conversations you entertain. These things matter more now than ever before, because your system is picking up everything, and if you don't choose intentionally, the world will flood you with noise. You've learned that walking into a room is no longer a neutral act, it's a full-body experience. Your energy meets the space before your feet even cross the threshold. You feel the charge in the air. You sense the emotional residue on the walls. You hear the tension vibrating behind someone's hello. And sometimes it's too much. Sometimes you have to leave. Sometimes you need to recover. Not because you're weak, but because your system is too honest to lie about what it's experiencing. This is your new normal. You see too much to pretend now. You feel too deeply to play small. And this awareness will continue to deepen. You'll start picking up on collective energy, mood shifts in the city, the emotional climate of a room before you even enter it. You'll learn to trust those nudges that tell you not here, not now, not them. Your body will become your compass, your intuition, your language, your vibration, your shield. And what used to feel like a burden will slowly become your greatest strength. Because the more attuned you become, the more you'll understand that every signal is guidance. Every flicker of discomfort is a direction. Every moment of tension is a message. And when you honor that, when you listen, you become sovereign. You stop adjusting to static. You start aligning with signal. And eventually you'll find others who hear it too. Others who walk through the world with the same deep sensitivity. Who communicate in frequency instead of noise, who don't need explanations to understand you, who don't drain you with confusion but lift you with clarity. Your presence will no longer feel like work, it will feel like resonance. And in that resonance, you'll remember, you were never too much, you were just finely tuned. You've probably felt it before, an odd tingle across your arms in the middle of a crowded room, a patch of warmth at the back of your neck that seems to pulse for no reason. Maybe you've even scratched your arm or adjusted your clothing thinking it was a tag or dry skin or the temperature in the room. But no matter how many times you check, there's nothing physically wrong. Still, the sensation persists. What if I told you that's not your skin reacting to something external in the material world? That's your frequency responding to energy. You're not just feeling fabric or temperature, you're feeling vibration. Your skin has become more than a barrier, it's a broadcast tower, a radar, a spiritual sensor, and every twitch, every goosebump, every subtle crawling sensation is your body translating frequencies into touch. You're not imagining it. The discomfort you feel in certain environments, shopping malls, elevators, waiting rooms, even crowded restaurants, has little to do with the lighting or the noise. It's the unseen chaos, the emotional static in the air, the tension people carry in silence, their suppressed thoughts, their unresolved emotions, their energetic dissonance. Your skin reads it like braille. and it doesn't need your permission to respond, because it's not just skin anymore. It's a vibrational interface between you and the external world. For most of your life, you probably moved through the world with a kind of energetic numbness. Not because you lacked awareness, but because your body hadn't yet fully awakened to its own intelligence. But now that your frequency has risen, your skin is no longer just absorbing sensory input. It's translating energy. Every surface it touches, every space it enters, every crowd it brushes against, it all leaves an imprint. You might notice that you start to itch more in public, not because of allergies or dryness, but because your body is trying to repel what it doesn't trust. It's a subtle recoil, a way of saying, this doesn't feel safe. Goosebumps in a room with no breeze. Warmth spreading across your chest when someone stands too close. A crawling sensation on your arms when you're sitting in silence among strangers. That's your energy field tightening. That's your skin preparing to defend. And what you're feeling isn't emotional discomfort, it's energetic inflammation. Think of it like this. Just as your physical immune system fights off viruses and bacteria, your energetic body fights off frequencies that don't resonate. And your skin is on the front lines of that battle. It senses the clutter before your mind can rationalize it. It feels the tension before the conversation even starts. And when something isn't aligned, it lets you know. Through sensation. But we've been conditioned to ignore these signals. We reach for lotion. We adjust our sleeves. We blame the chair, the heat, the fabric. We distract ourselves. We downplay the discomfort. But your skin isn't confused. It's communicating. It's trying to protect you from what your rational mind has been trained to normalize. Because here's the truth. Energy leaves residue. When people move through the world carrying unresolved pain, fear, or anger, that energy doesn't disappear. It lingers. It clings to surfaces. It saturates the air, and in places where people gather in large numbers, especially unconsciously, it builds up. Like a thick fog. Like static in the air. Most people don't feel it. But you do. And your skin, the largest organ of your body, is where that frequency makes contact first. And the more sensitive you become, the more responsive your skin becomes. It acts as a shield, a communicator, and a warning system. It's telling you, this place is heavy. This person's energy is dense. This emotion is not yours. And when you honor that information, when you pause and acknowledge it, you begin to understand just how intelligent your body really is. You might notice that certain places provoke the same responses over and over. A tingling in the same spot every time you visit a hospital. A heat that rises across your chest in shopping malls. An itchy sensation that starts the moment you sit in someone else's car. That's not coincidence. That's consistency. Your body has mapped out energetic signatures. And now it's remembering, responding, preparing. And what happens when you ignore it? You carry that residue with you. You go home and feel inexplicably heavy. You try to relax, but your skin still buzzes. You take a shower not because you feel dirty, but because you feel energetically coated. You rub your arms instinctively, trying to shake off something you can't name. That's your nervous system trying to discharge what it absorbed. That's your field trying to clear itself, and the more you ignore it, the more overwhelmed you become. This is why it's no longer optional to take care of your energetic hygiene, not as a spiritual practice, but as a physical necessity. Because your skin can no longer tough it out. It can't pretend to be neutral in a space that feels chaotic. It won't let you stay in an environment that your spirit wants to leave. Your skin is teaching you something sacred. Boundaries are not just mental, they're vibrational, and those boundaries must begin at the surface. This is why you're drawn to certain fabrics now, softer, lighter, more breathable. Why you crave cool water on your skin after social interactions. Why you instinctively wrap yourself in blankets, change clothes, or step outside after being in a crowd. Your body is looking for a reset. Your skin is trying to return to baseline. And the deeper message behind all of this? You're becoming less tolerant of energetic pollution, not out of fragility, but out of clarity. You've outgrown environments where your field has to fight just to stay whole. You're no longer willing to numb yourself to survive what you're meant to walk away from. Your skin knows. It knows when someone's energy is too loud, even if their voice is soft. It knows when a room is holding pain that no one is speaking. It knows when the frequency of a space is misaligned with your current state. And it responds. With goosebumps, tingles, prickles, heat, restlessness. That response is sacred. It is your compass. It is the subtle way your soul says, not here, not this, not now. And as you learn to trust that compass, you begin to live differently. You stop pushing through discomfort. You stop overriding your instincts. You stop explaining away what your body is clearly telling you. You start to listen not just with your ears, but with your skin. And that listening leads to freedom. The freedom to leave a room before it drains you. The freedom to say no without needing a reason. The freedom to trust that if your skin reacts, your energy is detecting something real, something unseen, something important. You're not overly sensitive, you're awake. And your skin, your spiritual sensor, your protective barrier, your frequency reader is trying to keep you safe. Not from people, not from places, but from energy that isn't yours to hold. So the next time you feel the crawl, the tingle, the warmth, pause, breathe, listen. Your body knows the truth before your mind catches up. And the more you honor that truth, the more whole you become. There are places where you walk in and forget to breathe. Not because you're nervous, not because you're anxious, but because something inside you simply stops. It's subtle at first, a pause in your chest, a missed inhale. You try to take a deep breath, but it doesn't land. It hitches, it stalls halfway, it never makes it past the top of your lungs. And then you realize you've been holding your breath for minutes without even knowing it. It's not a panic attack. It's not stress. It's something far stranger, something most people would never think to notice. Your breath is trying to protect you. There's a wisdom in the body that knows what the mind has yet to understand. And your breath, this ancient, silent ally, is one of the first places that wisdom speaks, not in language, not in thoughts, but in rhythm, in flow, or the sudden lack of it. You walk into a room filled with noise, distraction, and invisible tension, and your breath shifts. It tightens, slows, retreats. You try to bring it back, but it won't come easy. Not because your lungs are weak, but because the air is heavy, not with smoke or dust, but with energy. You're not suffocating, you're rejecting what you were never meant to inhale. You see, your breath doesn't just carry oxygen, it carries frequency. It's the interface between your internal and external world. With every inhale, you're not just pulling in air, you're pulling in information, vibration, emotion, the entire energetic atmosphere of the space around you. And when that space is filled with static, presentment unspoken, grief buried, frustration suppressed, your system knows. Your breath senses it. And instead of allowing all that into your field, it shuts down, it stalls. Because your soul doesn't want to absorb what your body was never meant to carry. In a crowd, in a room filled with unconsciousness, your breath becomes hesitant. You sigh more. You yawn without being tired. You feel this tightness across your ribs or in your diaphragm, like something is pressing in. You try to breathe deeper, but it feels blocked. You take another inhale, but it doesn't satisfy. Not because your lungs are malfunctioning, but because your frequency is compressing. This is what most people never notice. Energy impacts breath. When your energy field contracts in response to misaligned frequencies, your breath contracts with it, not as a flaw, as a defense. Your system is refusing to take in what feels chaotic, what feels dishonest, what feels energetically toxic. Think of how different it feels to breathe in a forest, near the ocean, in the stillness of your own home. Your breath deepens naturally without effort. You feel clear, open, receptive. That's not just the absence of pollution. It's the absence of static. There's a purity to the energy, and your body recognizes it. Your nervous system relaxes. Your breath expands. There is space. There is peace. And so your lungs take their full shape. Now contrast that with an airport terminal, a shopping mall, a family gathering where tension simmers beneath politeness. You feel the difference the moment you arrive. The air may be technically clean, but your body knows better. The frequency is dense. The emotional climate is erratic. You might find yourself yawning constantly, breathing shallowly. Your body tightens, your chest constricts. It's not because something's wrong with you, it's because your system is intelligent enough to say no. You're not just breathing air, you're breathing energy. And your breath will always tell you the truth before your mind does. When you walk into a space and feel like you can't catch a breath, that's your field going into self-preservation. It's rejecting the download of frequency around you. that room, that crowd, that environment. It may be buzzing with words and movement and light, but underneath it's filled with thoughts that haven't been spoken, emotions that haven't been cleared, energy that hasn't been grounded. And your breath, it wants none of it. Because you're not just sensitive now, you're awake. And that awakening brings with it a different relationship to breathing. It's no longer automatic, it's intuitive, it's selective. It becomes a filter, a gatekeeper, a boundary. And this is something most people never realize. Boundaries aren't always about what you say. Sometimes boundaries live in the breath, in what you allow into your body, in what you choose to pull in, and what your system gently resists. You may find yourself stepping outside during events now, not to escape, but to breathe. You may notice how much more air reaches your lungs when you're alone, or in nature, or around someone who feels energetically clean. You don't just breathe better, you feel better. That's not psychological, that's vibrational. And once you experience that contrast, you can't pretend not to know. You can't force yourself to breathe in rooms where your soul feels smothered. You can't ignore the way your chest tightens when someone walks in with unresolved energy. You can't deny the way your breath flattens when a conversation turns performative. Because your body is telling you something, and it's not subtle anymore. You're not weak. You're just resonating higher. And higher resonance means less tolerance for distortion. Your body will now speak to you through breath, telling you where you can stay and where you need to leave, who you can be around and who collapses your lungs, what environments feed your field, and what spaces pull it into contraction. And that wisdom is holy, because breath is life, breath is spirit. Breath is the bridge between your energy and your existence. To breathe deeply in a space means that space is aligned with your truth. To struggle for air in a conversation means your soul doesn't want to engage. To hold your breath around certain people means your system knows, this isn't safe. This isn't clean. This isn't real. There is no faking the breath. You can fake a smile, you can fake a tone, you can fake presence. But you cannot fake the language of your body. And your breath will always tell on you. It will reveal when you're pushing past your truth, when you're ignoring your field, when you're absorbing what isn't meant for you. So, start listening to it. Pay attention to the spaces that expand you. Notice the people around whom your lungs open like wings. Watch for the moments when you take the first real breath of the day, often right after you've left a situation that drained you. That breath, that's your body finally saying, we're safe again. That's not coincidence. That's guidance. Your breath is the sacred alarm that rings not with panic, but with knowing. And the more you listen, the more you trust that knowing. You no longer need to rationalize why a room feels wrong. You don't need to analyze why you feel smothered. You don't need proof. You just need to feel what your body is already telling you. So the next time your breath catches, don't fight it. Don't force it. Step back. Step out. Step away. Let your lungs recalibrate to truth. Because you're not meant to shrink into shallow breathing to tolerate low-frequency spaces. You're meant to breathe fully in alignment. You're not suffocating. You're remembering what clean air feels like. You used to seek out the noise, the conversations, the laughter, the constant hum of connection. There was something comforting about it, something that filled the silence you once feared. You needed it to feel alive, to feel included, to feel like you had a place in the world. You filled your calendar, your spaces, your phone, your mind, anything to avoid the stillness that once felt too loud. But now, something's changed. Now you find yourself craving the quiet. Now silence soothes you in a way that words never could. Now space feels like medicine. You no longer rush to fill the gaps in your schedule or reply immediately to every message. You no longer feel anxious when the phone doesn't ring or when the weekend comes and plans fall through. In fact, you welcome it. You sigh with relief. You step into that stillness like it's a warm bath you've been waiting to sink into. You're not avoiding the world, you're returning to yourself. There's a sacred kind of peace that wraps around you when you're alone now. It's not emptiness, it's fullness without distraction. When you sit in that space with no sound, no expectations, no outside energy pushing its way in, you finally feel your own frequency humming clearly again. The static clears, the pressure lifts, your breath deepens, your thoughts slow down, and suddenly you remember what it feels like to be you. That's not loneliness, that's holiness. Once upon a time, being alone might have felt like punishment, like a lack, like something was missing. You equated solitude with being forgotten, overlooked, disconnected. But now you know. Solitude is not the absence of connection, it's the return to the deepest connection, the one that lives within you, the one that was always whispering beneath the noise, waiting for you to come home. And the more you rise in frequency, the more sacred that home becomes. Because the truth is, your system can't afford constant exposure anymore. Every social interaction, every energetic exchange, every moment in the presence of others, it all costs something now. It's not that you don't love people. It's not that you've grown cold. Quite the opposite. Your love is purer now, deeper, more attuned. But it's also more discerning. You feel so much more than you used to. Your field is more porous, your sense is sharper, your boundaries more vibrational than verbal. So when you're around people, especially in crowded, chaotic, or energetically inconsistent spaces, your system begins to fray. You start to fragment, to pick up things that aren't yours, to drift from your center. And the only way to return is to step away. You don't retreat because you're broken. You retreat because you're rebuilding. That craving for isolation isn't regression, it's recalibration. Your energy needs time to clear the noise. Your soul needs space to stretch out. When you're constantly plugged into the external world, your own inner rhythm gets drowned out. And you've come too far now to lose that rhythm again. You know the cost of forgetting yourself. You've paid it before and you're not willing to pay it again, so now you seek out the quiet on purpose. You go for long drives without music, not because you're bored, but because you want to feel. You sit under trees with no intention but to listen. You cancel plans not because you don't care, but because your spirit needs space more than your calendar needs to be full. You close your eyes at night and feel more intimacy in the silence than you've ever felt in a crowded room, because you've remembered something sacred. Solitude is a portal. When the world gets too loud, that portal brings you back to source, back to truth, back to breath, back to the place where everything dissolves. Titles, roles, expectations, energy, and only you remain, the raw, quiet essence of you. Not the performer, not the caretaker, not the responder, just you, fully present, fully felt, fully home. And the irony is, the more you embrace that sacred emptiness, the more whole you become. People might not understand. They may wonder why you're suddenly pulling away, why you don't come out like you used to, why you seem so quiet these days. Some will take it personally, some will assume you're hiding, but you're not hiding, you're healing. You're preserving the sanctity of your own frequency, because you've realized that recovery isn't just for the body, it's for the soul. And your soul needs this space to breathe. It needs this quiet to hear itself. It needs the stillness, not as an escape, but as an integration. To gather the fragments scattered across too many interactions. To call back the pieces you gave away in too many conversations. To remember your wholeness again, uninterrupted. That's why you now choose forests over festivals, oceans over crowds, books over banter, depth over noise. It's not because you can't handle stimulation. It's because you finally understand how much it costs you to stay constantly connected to things that pull you out of alignment. You're no longer addicted to noise, you're devoted to resonance. And if that resonance only lives in the quiet right now, then so be it. This is your monastery. This is your temple. This is your sacred, self-created space where you meet yourself fully and undistracted, where you recharge not just your mind but your frequency, where you realign with what's true, not because someone said it was, but because your body feels it to be. And that knowing, that felt soul-deep knowing, can only be accessed in silence. So let the world keep spinning, let the noise continue without you. You've chosen emptiness, not as a void, but as a vessel, because in the absence of chatter you hear your soul speak. In the absence of chaos, you feel your energy expand. In the absence of performance, you finally remember who you are. And that remembering, it's not a retreat, it's a return. You've probably noticed it by now, how your presence can shift the entire energy of a room without you saying a single word. How people sometimes avoid eye contact with you. How conversations suddenly feel awkward. How someone's tone changes, even if just slightly, the moment you step into the space. You may have even begun to wonder, did I do something wrong? Or why do I feel so out of place here? But what you're sensing isn't a social misstep. It's not rejection. It's reflection. You're becoming a frequency mirror, and your energy, without effort or intent, is reflecting back to others everything within them that they haven't wanted to see. It's not personal. It's vibrational. When your frequency rises, when you've spent time clearing your field, healing your patterns, reconnecting to your truth, your presence begins to emit a type of resonance that's unmistakable. It's not flashy, it's not loud, it's not aggressive. In fact, it's often quiet, calm, still, but that stillness, it acts like a mirror. And people who are still unconsciously carrying chaos will often feel uncomfortable in the presence of that much clarity. You don't have to say a word. You don't have to confront them. You don't even have to know their story. Your being does all the work. Because your vibration exposes the contrast between who they're pretending to be and who they truly are. And for someone who hasn't done the work, or isn't ready to, your presence is like a spotlight shining on every mask they've carefully constructed. They might fidget, their voice may rise a little, they may get defensive or try to control the conversation. Or they may just pull away altogether, offering vague excuses or creating distance without explanation. It's easy to take this personally, to feel like you're too intense, too serious, too different. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that your frequency is revealing a part of them that they've tried to keep buried. And when someone isn't ready to look at that part, they don't say, "I'm uncomfortable because I haven't faced my truth." Instead they say, or more often, feel, "I'm uncomfortable because of you." And so they project. They project their inattention outward. They interpret your calm as arrogance, your clarity as judgment, your peace as superiority, your honesty as confrontation. They assign motives to your stillness because they don't know what to do with it. Your energy becomes a trigger, not because you've done anything wrong, but because they are now face to face with the parts of themselves they've silenced. It's not rejection, it's resonance without readiness. You are resonating at a frequency that demands authenticity, not forcefully, not with ego, but with presence. And presence, when held with purity, becomes a mirror so clean, so quiet, so unfiltered, that it reflects back exactly what is. You've probably seen it happen. Someone opens up to you quickly, almost too quickly. They pour out their story, their pain, their truth, because something in your field feels safe. But then, just as quickly, they pull away. They vanish, they become cold, or they pretend like nothing ever happened. That sudden shift isn't about you. It's about what your presence brought up in them. Because once the mask slips, once the truth is revealed, the mind scrambles to regain control. And for someone not ready to face themselves, it's easier to blame the mirror than to sit with the reflection. And yet, even with this understanding, it can still hurt. It can feel lonely, isolating. You start questioning your energy. You wonder if you should tone it down, soften your truth, dim your light to avoid the discomfort it seems to cause. But here's the thing. You didn't come here to blend in. You didn't incarnate to be digestible. You didn't rise in frequency just to tuck yourself back into a box that no longer fits. You're not here to be comfortable. You're here to be clear. And clarity, while liberating, can be confronting to those still hiding from themselves. So don't be surprised if you find yourself walking into a room and the energy shifts. Don't be surprised when someone avoids you after baring their soul. Don't be surprised when you sense agitation, resistance, or confusion in someone who hasn't done the inner work. It's not that they don't like you, it's that they don't yet know how to like the version of themselves that your presence exposes. Because mirrors are not always welcomed, especially by those who've never seen their own reflection without distortion. But know this, you are not alone in this experience. As your energy continues to rise, you'll meet others like you. Others who don't flinch when they look into your mirror. Others who breathe deeper in your presence instead of shrinking. Others who feel seen, not judged. Who recognize your clarity as an invitation rather than a threat. Who aren't afraid of what your vibration brings up. Because they've been doing the same work within themselves. These people, they will feel like oxygen. But until then, it's okay to walk alone. It's okay to keep your circle small. It's okay to protect your peace, even if it means being misunderstood. Because you've spent too long sacrificing your own frequency to make others comfortable. You've dimmed, diluted, and doubted your own light in an attempt to not shine too brightly. But your soul is done apologizing for its glow. Your frequency is not the problem, it's the medicine. And sometimes medicine stings before it heals. Sometimes reflection burns before it reveals beauty. Sometimes being the mirror means watching others walk away. Not because you pushed them, but because they weren't ready to face the reflection you offered with love. But don't dim, don't fold, don't soften your edges, just to fit back into a world you were born to change. You are here to be a tuning fork for truth, a reflector of alignment, a quiet revolution that moves through energy, not ego. So let them project, let them misunderstand, let them recoil. And know in your heart, none of it is about your worth, it's about their readiness. Because one day, when they finally look back and see who you truly were, not a threat, but a mirror, they'll realize you were never pushing them away. You were simply holding up the truth they weren't yet ready to hold themselves. Sacred. You feel it the moment you walk in. Something is off. The room looks normal. People are smiling, laughing, having conversations that on the surface sound warm and pleasant. But your body tenses. Your chest tightens. A part of you that doesn't have language starts to pull back. You don't see anything alarming, but you feel it. Like a faint pressure humming against your skin. It's not the people, it's not the space. It's the frequency. Because something isn't being said, and you can't stay where truth is being silenced. You used to tolerate it. The fake smiles, the surface talk, the well-manicured energy that says all the right things while hiding the actual emotional weather beneath it. You could sit through it, even join in at times. You knew how to keep the peace, play along, be polite. But now, your system won't allow it. Your body no longer lets you pretend that dishonesty is harmless because you've become allergic to inauthenticity. That's not a metaphor, it's not dramatic, it's your nervous system refusing to absorb falsehood. You can sense it in the tone of a voice, in the way someone averts their gaze, in the awkward pause between words where something real should be. You pick it up before your mind can even catch it, and once you do, it sits in your field like static. Uncomfortable, unclear, misaligned. You're not paranoid, you're perceptive. You're not judgmental, you're attuned. And that attunement has changed everything, because now, when truth is absent, your body responds like it's under attack. Maybe it starts with a flutter in your chest, or an odd heaviness in your shoulders. Maybe your skin begins to itch or feel hot. You shift in your seat, trying to convince yourself it's nothing. But it's not nothing. It's your body's way of saying this space is built on performance, not present. It doesn't matter how lovely someone is acting. If the energy underneath is dishonest, your entire system registers the misalignment, and you can't pretend not to feel it anymore. There's a reason superficial conversations feel so exhausting now. You're no longer satisfied by "how are you" and "I'm fine." You don't want to talk about the weather, or last night's show, or what someone bought on sale. Not because you're too serious, but because you're too awake. You feel the hollowness in those exchanges, the way people hide behind rehearsed answers, the way they wrap their truth in humor or distraction or noise. And what used to pass as connection now feels like dissonance. You find yourself drifting off mid-conversation, not because you're bored, but because the frequency is empty. Your soul has learned how to detect when someone is talking around themselves instead of from themselves. And in those moments, your energy pulls back, not out of disrespect but out of instinct, because alignment now dictates location. You don't stay in rooms just to be polite. You don't linger in conversations that feel forced. You don't nod and smile just to fill silence. That old version of you, the one who tolerated misalignment for the sake of acceptance, no longer exists. You've grown too honest with yourself to sit comfortably in a place that isn't being honest with you. You walk into spaces and scan them energetically now, not on purpose, not as a practice, it just happens. You feel the weight of what isn't being said. You sense the suppression in people's throats, the tension in their eyes, the fear masked as friendliness. And it wears on you. It drains you. Not because you're absorbing it, but because you're resisting the urge to mirror it. And your body doesn't want to resist anymore. It wants alignment. It wants truth, even if that truth is messy, even if it's painful, even if it's awkward. You'd rather sit in silence with someone who's being real than have a long, flowing conversation with someone who's performing peace. Because your soul knows the difference, and now, so does your body. This is why certain places feel unbearable, why you enter some rooms and immediately want to leave. It's not the lighting, it's not the noise, it's the dishonesty thick in the air. The performance of harmony with none of the substance. The collective agreement to not speak what's real, to not feel what's raw, to avoid what's vulnerable, and your energy can't anchor in that anymore. You no longer feel at home in places where the truth is unwelcome because your field is truth. It's the frequency of what's real, what's felt, what's spoken with intention. And when it meets the distortion of performance, it can't fuse, it doesn't want to. And so your body begins to pull back, your heart starts to close. Not out of coldness, but out of clarity. You are not meant to stay where your presence has to shrink. You are not meant to entertain energy that refuses to be honest with itself. And when someone's words don't match their frequency, you feel it like a sudden drop in elevation. You can't always explain why, you just know. Something's off, something's hidden, something's pretending. And no matter how charming the delivery, you can't override the knowing. Even your skin rebels in dishonest rooms, that itch on your neck, the prickling on your arms, the weight in your chest. These are not random sensations, they are signals. Your body trying to adjust its boundaries, trying to guard your field, trying to alert you that your environment is not emotionally safe, even if it looks harmless on the surface. And the more you trust those signals, the less time you waste in places that drain you. Because you've learned that your peace is not found in physical comfort, it's found in energetic alignment. And alignment for you now means truth. Not perfection, not politeness, truth. People who speak it, rooms that hold it, energy that doesn't fake it. And when it's missing, you can't force yourself to stay. Because staying would mean betraying what your body already knows. And you've done that before. You've stayed too long in conversations that made your soul ache. You've smiled through dissonance. You've ignored your intuition to make others feel comfortable. But now, your body refuses to betray you like that. Now you leave. You disengage. You don't explain. You don't justify. You honor the quiet pull of your own knowing. And that is sacred. It's not rejection of others, it's protection of your truth. So if you find yourself walking away more often, don't see it as losing connection. See it as reclaiming alignment, because you are no longer available for rooms that require you to lie to yourself just to belong. You are no longer capable of faking comfort in the face of energetic distortion. You don't stay where truth isn't welcome. You don't shrink where masks are praised. You don't breathe where the air is thick with suppression, because your frequency now requires clarity, and clarity, in its truest form, always chooses to walk where truth lives. It hits you afterward, not during the interaction, not while you're smiling and holding space, not even when you're nodding along and doing your best to stay present. No, It creeps in once the room is quiet again, once the door closes, once you're alone and finally able to hear your own energy again. That's when it hits you, the weight, the fog, the heaviness that wasn't there before, the strange fatigue that has nothing to do with how long you were out or how much you said. It feels like something is still clinging to you, like you're carrying residue that doesn't belong to you. That, right there, is an energetic hangover. And for someone like you, someone whose frequency has been rising steadily, it's no longer rare. It's a regular aftermath of contact. Because being around people isn't passive anymore. It's not just social. It's not just conversation. It's exchange. Invisible cords, emotional particles, vibrational imprints. You feel all of it, whether you want to or not, and your body remembers it, even after they've left the room. You used to wonder why you felt drained after certain interactions. You thought maybe you were just tired, maybe you didn't sleep well, maybe you were being too sensitive. But now you know, it wasn't physical exhaustion, it was energetic depletion, and no amount of sleep, coffee, or distraction fixes it. Because the exhaustion didn't come from within, it came from what you absorbed. And you're absorbing a lot more now, not because you're weak, but because you're wide open. Your aura, your field, your awareness, it's all expanded. You feel what others suppress. You pick up on what's not being said. You read emotional climates like weather patterns, and when you step into someone else's storm, even if you smile through it, you leave soaked in something you never asked to carry. This is why you crave rituals now, not just to feel better, but to cleanse. You find yourself needing water more than usual, not just to drink, but to immerse in. Long showers that last well past when you're clean, baths with salt or herbs, standing under water like it's a ceremony. You may not even realize it, but your soul does. Water clears frequency. It washes the emotional film off your skin. It grounds you, resets you, brings you back into you. Or maybe you're drawn to oils, scents, textures. You rub your hands with essential oils you can't quite explain your attraction to. Frankincense, lavender, eucalyptus. You anoint your neck, your chest, your temples. You don't need a reason, you just feel it. And that feeling is the reason, because oil holds intention. Scent carries frequency, and your nervous system is responding to more than just aroma. It's responding to vibration. Even fabric matters now. You peel off the clothes you wore out like they're not just dirty. They're energetically stained. You can feel it. The fabric holds energy. The shirt you wore in that intense conversation. The jacket you had on while surrounded by tension. You get home and it's the first thing you need to remove. Your skin needs to breathe again. Your field needs space. And that craving for fresh fabric, that's your energy asking to be rewrapped in clarity. These aren't just habits anymore. They're survival. Because energetic detox is no longer optional for you. It's not a luxury. It's not a weekend ritual. It's a necessity. A requirement for your nervous system to return to center. Because your nervous system, as evolved as it's become, is still tender, still human, still processing. And the more attuned you become, the more aware you are that every interaction leaves a mark. It doesn't matter how kind someone is. If they're not clear, you feel it. If they're performing peace but holding pain, you feel it. If they're smiling but suppressing rage, you feel it. If they're grounded in ego but speaking in spiritual language, you feel it. And you might leave the conversation thinking you're okay. But your body disagrees. Hours later, your shoulders are tense, your breath is shallow, your skin feels hot, you're agitated for no reason. You feel like you're carrying something invisible that you can't name, can't shake, can't quite understand. That's not your energy. That's what you absorbed. That's what you picked up while trying to hold space, trying to be present, trying to be kind. You didn't mean to take it on, but you did. Because your field doesn't just listen to words, it listens to truth. And when it hears distortion, it reacts. Your nervous system doesn't forget what the mind tries to ignore. And that's why recovery matters more than ever now. You're not just recharging after socializing, you're clearing your frequency. You're detaching cords, you're rinsing your field. You're letting your body breathe again after holding more than it was ever meant to. And it's not selfish to do so, it's responsible. Because when you don't recover properly, you walk into the next interaction already fragmented, already overloaded, already blurred at the edges. And that's how disconnection begins. That's how burnout sneaks in, not just physically but energetically. So you stop waiting for a breakdown to take care of yourself. You start ritualizing recovery, not as a reaction but as a rhythm. You build it into your day. You give yourself space between conversations. You create buffers after being around intensity. You don't schedule over your stillness. You honor it. You honor the bath. You honor the scent. You honor the silence. You light the candle not for romance, but for recalibration. You close your eyes not to escape, but to return. You sit on the floor, bare feet on the earth, hands on your chest, and feel. You don't rush it. You don't judge it. You just be. Because that being is how you come back. And coming back is the most sacred act you can perform. Because in this world, you are going to continue meeting energies that are unprocessed. People who are unaware, spaces that are dense. You can't avoid all of it, but you can learn how to recover from it. There is a moment somewhere along your journey when it becomes tempting to pull all the way back. When your energy has been stretched too thin, your body worn out by noise, your heart heavy from feeling too much of what others refuse to feel themselves, it starts to seem easier to just disappear, to retreat from the world altogether, to shrink your field so small that nothing can touch it, to go numb, to vanish, to stop showing up because showing up always seems to cost so much. But you didn't come here to shrink, you came here to shine. You didn't wake up to your frequency just to hide it again under layers of protection. You didn't survive your own healing only to play it small in a world that desperately needs your light. And even though it feels like the world doesn't always welcome that light, you are not meant to retreat forever. Yes, you feel everything. Yes, your system runs deeper than most people can understand. Yes, you pick up subtleties others are blind to, carry emotions they haven't even named, and notice shifts in the atmosphere most people don't even register. But that sensitivity isn't a curse. It's a gift. A sacred one that has been entrusted to you for a reason. You were given clarity. Real clarity. Not just the ability to sense vibes, but the capacity to discern truth in a way that cuts through illusion like a blade of light. You don't just hear what's said. You feel what's hidden. You don't just observe people, you read them. You don't just exist in the world, you feel its pulse, its pain, its possibility. And yes, that makes you different. But different is exactly what the world needs right now. Not louder voices. Not faster answers, not more filters, masks, or distractions. The world needs presence. It needs consciousness. It needs people who don't look away, who don't pretend, who don't numb themselves to fit in with the numbness of the collective. And that means, even when it would be easier to disappear, you must remain. You're not here to vanish. You're here to vibrate. You're here to hold a field of truth so strong, so rooted, so clear, that others can remember their own truth just by standing near you. You're here to walk into distorted spaces and remain undistorted, to walk into chaos and remain calm, to walk into noise and still carry silence in your bones. But in order to do that, you must learn to honor your boundaries, not to hide, but to fortify. Not to protect yourself out of fear, but to preserve your frequency out of love. Because your light is sacred now. It's not something you throw around carelessly. It's not something you offer to anyone who demands it. You've learned, through pain, through depletion, through experience, that not everyone knows how to hold what you offer. That some will misuse it. Some will try to drain it. Some will project their own shadows onto it and call it too much. And once, that may have made you doubt yourself. You may have believed them. You may have started to think, maybe I really am too sensitive. Maybe I really do feel too much. Maybe I need to pull back to protect myself. But not anymore. Because now you know. It's not your sensitivity that's the problem. It's the world's refusal to feel. You are not too much. You are simply more in tune than most people are ready for. And your job isn't to shrink to fit their comfort. It's to anchor into your truth so fully, so deeply, that their discomfort no longer shakes you. This doesn't mean you become hardened. It doesn't mean you wall yourself off. It means you root yourself in discernment. You stop giving from an empty well. You stop engaging out of obligation. You stop lowering your frequency just to make others feel more secure in their unconsciousness. You don't retreat, you refine. You don't isolate, you align. Because high-frequency living is not about isolation, it's about intention. You may spend more time alone now, yes. You may withdraw from certain crowds. You may protect your peace with more conviction. But that's not because you're running from the world, it's because you're creating the space needed to show up in it powerfully. Because when you're clear, when your field is clean, your energy strong, your truth intact, you walk into a room and it shifts. People feel your presence before they hear your words. They sense something in you that they've been missing in themselves. And that is what you're here for. You are not here to convince anyone of anything. You are not here to entertain or perform. You are here to embody, to be a living, breathing frequency of what alignment looks like, of what authenticity feels like, of what sovereignty sounds like when spoken out loud. And no, that won't always be comfortable. Not for you, and not for others. There will still be days when your system feels overwhelmed, still moments when you feel alone in your sensitivity, still interactions where your clarity is misread as confrontation, or your silence is misunderstood as arrogance. But even on those days, especially on those days, you don't fold. You don't dim, you don't shrink. Because every time you hold your light in a world addicted to darkness, you create space for someone else to remember their own. You lead by frequency now. And frequency never begs to be understood. It simply radiates. So yes, take the time you need. Rest when your body asks. Step back when your soul says so. But never confuse recalibration with retreat. Never confuse stillness with smallness. Never confuse solitude with shrinking, because even in your quietest moments, even when you're alone in a room lit only by your own breath, you are still expanding, still rising, still anchoring truth in a world that needs it more than ever. You are not built to shrink back. You were built to hold light, even when it's heavy, even when it's lonely, even when it flickers in the wind of other people's projections. Because your light is not for their comfort. It's for their awakening. And every time you refuse to every time you stand tall in your truth, speak gently from your soul, and walk away from what no longer resonates, you remind the world what true alignment looks like. You remind the world that sensitivity is not weakness, it's wisdom. And you remind yourself again and again that the more you rise, the more you must remain unapologetically you. And recovery for you now is not just about rest. It's about remembering. Remembering your baseline. Remembering your truth. Remembering your center. So if you find yourself needing more time alone after being around others, if you notice that your skin itches, your mood shifts, your breath flattens hours after you leave a space, if you're craving rituals that clear what you can't explain, it's not you being high minimal, it's not you being weak, it's you being awake. And your awakening requires care, real, intentional, daily energetic care, because the more sensitive you become, the more sacred your system becomes, and sacred things must be cleansed. You step into the airport, and it hits you before the doors even close behind you. The noise, the movement, the tension, The weight of 1,000 untold stories clinging to the air like static. Everyone's rushing, no one's breathing, and something deep in your chest starts to constrict. It doesn't matter that nothing bad is happening. It doesn't matter that the lighting is clean, the announcements clear, the floor polished. Your body knows. Your field knows. And within seconds you feel like you're under siege. This is what it means to walk through a crowd as someone tuned to truth. It's not about people. It's about energy, and most public spaces, airports, malls, hospitals, subways, crowded offices, are drenched in suppressed emotion, pain tucked behind professionalism, anxiety masked by productivity, loneliness smothered by screens and shopping bags and forced smiles. These places run on performance, not presence. And you? You can no longer breathe in spaces where truth has gone missing. Your sensitivity is not a liability, it's an upgrade. But the upgrade comes with a cost. Because now, your field doesn't just observe, it absorbs. You don't need to make eye contact with someone to feel their grief. You don't need to hear their words to know they're angry. You don't need to witness the breakdown to sense the build-up. You've become attuned to the collective pulse. And that pulse, especially in crowds, is often chaotic, fast, erratic, disconnected. You feel the flickers of fear in people's eyes even when their mouths are talking about something casual. You feel the inattention behind someone's pacing, the heaviness behind a cashier's polite tone, the silent breakdowns happening in the minds of strangers standing inches away from you. The body language, the micro-expressions, the vibrations beneath the noise, they all register in your field like sirens. You're not imagining it. You're not overwhelmed because you're weak. You're overwhelmed because your frequency has risen beyond the veil of denial. And most public spaces are temples of denial. People don't go to malls to connect, they go to distract. They don't rush through airports with presence, they move in autopilot, wrapped in stress and anticipation. They don't walk through hospitals with clarity, they walk with fear, worry, suppressed grief. You step into these spaces and your system picks it all up. The dissonance, the pressure, the unsaid. It floods your field like white noise that you can't filter out anymore. Your body tries to adapt, but it can't, because adaptation would require you to disconnect from your truth, and you've come too far for that now. This is why your breath shortens in crowds, why your heart races in long lines, why you feel dizzy after walking through a busy store. Your body is not malfunctioning, it's protecting you. Your system is trying to shield you from the onslaught of frequencies that don't match your own. It's closing the gates, tightening the boundaries, not to punish you, but to preserve you. It may seem subtle, but you feel it everywhere. The tension in a waiting room where people are pretending not to be afraid. The irritation radiating off someone pacing in a checkout line. The deep emotional fog hovering over hospital lobbies where hope and hopelessness collide beneath the sterile lights. You feel the weight of lives in transition, of emotions unspoken, of energy unprocessed, and your system says no more, not out of judgment, out of necessity. You weren't designed to walk through those spaces unchanged, you were designed to feel. And that feeling, as sacred as it is, comes with responsibility. The responsibility to listen when your body starts to constrict, to honor the moment your soul begins to pull back. To trust your need to step outside, to leave early, to avoid certain places altogether, not as an escape, but as an act of alignment. Because crowded spaces are no longer neutral for you, they are battlegrounds of energy. They are arenas where countless frequencies clash and collide, where inner chaos leaks into the atmosphere, where distraction runs rampant, trying to mask the deep spiritual hunger most people are too afraid to confront. You feel the ache behind the eyes of the woman rushing past you. You sense the panic behind the calm voice of the man giving directions. You notice the tears someone never let fall, but your body catches them anyway, and your body remembers. It holds on to the frequency even after you've left. Hours later you're back home, and yet you feel like you're still there. Still standing in the middle of that airport terminal, still walking those aisles, still absorbing that emotional noise. You try to shake it off, but it lingers, because you didn't just witness it, you carried it, not by choice, but by resonance. This is why your energy now needs rituals, why you come home and immediately seek silence, why you change your clothes, light a candle, draw a bath, not because you're being dramatic, but because your body is trying to clear the residue. You didn't come here to soak in everyone else's suppression, you came here to hold truth. But truth is heavy when you're surrounded by those still pretending, and in public spaces, that pretending becomes a storm your body can't ignore anymore. So you learn to prepare differently. You bring grounding stones in your pocket. You wear protection oils on your skin. You visualize light around your body before stepping out. You map out spaces not just by location, but by vibration. Where does your breath stay open? Where does your mind feel clear? Where does your system begin to contract? You choose where to go not just by what's convenient, but by what's clean. And if a space is not clean, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, your body tells you before your mind even has time to catch up. So trust it. Trust that unease. Trust the need to leave early. Trust the fatigue that hits for no reason after a day in the city. You're not becoming antisocial, you're becoming sovereign. You're no longer available to swim in collective distortion just because it's normalized. You no longer tolerate the invisible chaos of crowds just to prove you're strong. Your sensitivity is your strength now. Your awareness is your armor. Your discernment is your guide. You walk differently now. You walk with the knowing that presence is sacred, that energy doesn't lie, that even if no one speaks it, your body feels it. And when it does, you listen. Because you're not here to carry the frequency of every crowd. You're here to stay clear in your own. There was a time when you questioned everything about yourself. You wondered why you felt things so deeply, why you cried for no reason, why your chest tightened in rooms where everyone else seemed fine. You doubted your reactions. You suppressed your instincts. You forced yourself to fit into emotional containers that were never made for someone like you. You told yourself to toughen up, to not take things so personally, to stop being so sensitive. But now, you see it differently. You're not too sensitive, you're finally online. Your frequency has awakened. Your inner radar, once muffled, once drowned in self-doubt, is now tuned to a bandwidth most people haven't accessed yet. You are reading life not just through words, but through energy, through vibration, through resonance. And what used to feel like a burden now reveals itself as intelligent, sacred intelligence. You're not weak because you can feel the mood in a room before a word is spoken. You're not unstable because you cry when a stranger walks by with grief written all over their aura. You're not broken because you can't stomach dishonesty, or tolerate noise, or fake a smile when your nervous system is screaming, "This isn't it." You're awake. And in a world that has built itself on numbing, distraction, and disconnection, being awake is radical. You're not rejecting the world, you're realigning with your soul. And your soul has a different compass now, one that doesn't measure success by how well you adapt to dysfunction, one that doesn't judge your worth by how easy you are to be around, one that doesn't require you to shrink, bend, or silence yourself to make others feel comfortable in their sleep. Because your soul didn't come here to stay asleep. It came here to remember. And remembering, for someone like you, isn't some sudden epiphany. It's a process, a dismantling, a quiet, holy unraveling of everything you were taught that never truly fit. And that unraveling can feel like a breakdown, like you're falling apart, like the life you built is collapsing beneath your feet. But it's not. It's not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough, a breaking away from illusion, from programming, from roles you never truly chose, from energy that never belonged to you. It's your soul shaking the system awake, calling you back to center, reminding you who you were before the noise, before the masks, before the conditioning. And yes, that can look messy. You may cry more. You may cancel plans last minute because your body just says no. You may start avoiding places you used to love or people you once poured your whole heart into. You may find that your needs change daily. Your tolerance for chaos shrinks. Your appetite for truth expands beyond anything you've ever known. It's not because you're losing touch, it's because you're gaining clarity. What once made sense no longer resonates. What once felt like comfort now feels like a cage. What once felt like connection now feels like codependence. And all of it is okay. All of it is part of the rise. Because when your frequency elevates, your life recalibrates. And not everyone will rise with you. Some will resist your transformation. Some will take it personally. Some will accuse you of changing as if growth were a betrayal, as if expansion were an offense. But you are not here to stay digestible for the comfort of others. You are here to evolve, to awaken, to embody what truth feels like in human form. And that embodiment, it speaks for itself. You don't need to defend it. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to over-justify why you need more space now, or why you walk away from conversations that feel hollow, or why you cry when others are laughing, or laugh when others are silent. Your frequency will not always be understood by those still living through the lens of survival. But you didn't come here to be understood. You came here to be aligned, to live in accordance with your knowing, to hold the frequency of presence in a world that forgot how to be still, to carry the torch of awareness into rooms built on unconscious agreements, to bring light, not to force change, but to illuminate what has been hidden. And that light, it's not just kindness, it's not just softness, it's clarity, it's boundaries, it's embodiment. It's a fierce, holy refusal to betray yourself ever again. It's the deep, unwavering commitment to no longer override what your body knows just to keep a temporary peace. And yes, that might mean walking alone sometimes. But you've learned that alone doesn't mean empty. Alone can mean sacred. Alone can mean held. Alone can mean surrounded by spirit, by ancestors, by the rhythm of your own breath whispering, "You're not crazy, you're just early," because the world is still catching up to where you already are. It's catching up to the truth you've been holding for lifetimes. It's catching up to the frequencies you now embody with every step, every breath, every conscious choice to live from the inside out. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, more and more people will begin to awaken. They'll start feeling what you've felt, sensing what you've sensed. They'll look to you, not as someone too sensitive, but as someone who remembers. And in that moment, you'll realize everything you went through to hold this frequency, every moment of doubt, every step away from what didn't serve, every time you chose truth over comfort, every sacred no you had to say, it was all worth it. Because your frequency is not just a personal experience, it's a blueprint, a map for others to rise, a living vibration that reminds the collective there is another way. So, no, you're not broken, you're online. You're not retreating from the world, you're realigning with the divine. You're not having a breakdown, you're remembering your mission. And that mission begins and ends with frequency. Your sacred intelligence is not an accident. It's your compass. It's your medicine. And it's your gift. Hold it with grace. Hold it with power. Hold it even when others don't understand. Because one day they will. And until then, walk with the knowing that your energy speaks louder than words, truer than dogma, and deeper than anyone can measure. You don't need to be loud to change the world. You just need to stay aligned.